Greetings, Overlord. It is I, Dreg. Per our agreement when I was banished, I was to make some apprentices. My son decided to make a creature off of Minecraft. I believe it's called a warden.
I'm fairly impressed, and you should be too. I mean, he's only 7. All I did was do the wire frame and a little bit of foil. He molded and painted all by himself.
So when I come up for parole, you should totally use this as evidence that my rehabilitation is working. But more importantly, I made this. All great builds, like great stories, start with old coffee containers stuffed with odds and ends. Before I started filming, I had a rough idea of what I wanted to build. I had already played around with the pieces a tad. I don't know why, but I enjoy the sound of that grinder. Usually when I build, I forget to do this step, but this time I remembered. Sanding is very important. It helps the glue to adhere to the plastic. And I'm not really sure what to say right here. I mean, do I need to talk about every little step in the process? I mean, I like watching those guys that play in the dirt in their underwear and they build like swimming pools and stuff. They don't talk. They just build, and it's perfectly fine. This is one of my very few builds in which I had a little bit of an idea, a little bit of a plan. I knew I wanted to make a spaceship type thing, and I knew some of the pieces and where I wanted them to go, but the overall build I just kind of flubbed as I went along. While you're watching my build, I'm going to try my hand at giving a review of something I just watched. If you're a fan of Obi-Wan, want to hear my take on it, keep listening. If you don't want to hear spoilers, I suggest you turn off the sound now. First off the bat, I think that if you're going to make a show about what Obi-Wan was going through in his exile, it should have been 7 episodes of him in quiet contemplation, sitting in the sand. I'm going to use my own exile, for instance. It wouldn't be much of an exile if I was able to leave the planet, save the kids of my friends, get in adventures, kill bad guys, and then come back. The whole point of him going to Tatooine was so that he could lay low and protect Luke. Him going off after Leia leaves Luke completely unguarded. To me, Leia should have been one of the most protected people in the galaxy. She was the adopted child of the King and Queen of Alderaan. The kidnapper should not have been able to get anywhere near Leia, let alone cause harm to her. Ben, looking after Leia, left Luke completely unprotected in a time when Inquisitors are literally scouring the galaxy for any Force-sensitive children. If they wanted to take Ben off planet, They should have used Inquisitors, getting too close to him. Ben revealing himself, getting the Inquisitors to chase him off-world while he takes care of them, and then when things settle down, he comes back. Them showing the adventures that Ben is going through in his exile is kind of the same as what would happen to Yoda while he was on Dagobah if Yoda was hopping off-world, killing Sith, Inquisitors, going after the Emperor, hopping back and forth all over the place, and then going back to Dagobah. That's not a very good exile, is it? Back to my build for a bit. I took some wooden beads and strung them onto a piece of wire that I found while snooping around above the ceiling tiles of my classroom. Don't ask questions. I used the beads to break up the build a little bit. Perhaps they're a cooling core. Who knows? This next complaint is one that I had. I voiced it as soon as I saw the first episode, and then I saw that some other people on YouTube had picked it up. It's the fact that Leia has a history now with old Ben. Think back to episode 4 when Obi-Wan finds the hologram. Leia says something about him fighting under her father during the Clone Wars, not about, "Hey, remember me? I'm the little girl you rescued." There is no familiarity there. She is trying to establish common ground with him, using the Clone Wars, and trying to establish her link to him. Another point of contention with me is the Grand Inquisitor. Me and my sons are fans of the Rebels TV show, in which the Grand Inquisitor was introduced. He dies at the end of season 1. But if the Grand Inquisitor dies in the Obi-Wan show, he's not alive during the Rebel show, which takes place after. Another flaw of the show is how Obi-Wan is portrayed. He's panicky. He doesn't know how to use the Force well. He's out of practice. That is not how a Jedi Master would respond. They would have been sitting quietly, training, contemplating, much like a Tibetan monk in Nepal, sitting quietly for years, mentally training, rehearsing their brains and bodies. They would have been ready for whatever happened, whatever came next. Think back to the end of episode 3, when Obi-Wan was discussing his exile with Yoda. Yoda was telling him what he needed to do, some homework he needed to work on while he was in exile. And we next see Obi-Wan Kenobi in episode 4, when Luke has interactions with him. He's cool, calm, collected. He knows what's going to happen. He faces Vader without fear. He marches right in. He knows what's going to happen. He knows the plan. That Obi-Wan is not the same in this Obi-Wan show. So those are a few of my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Leave me a comment below. Tell me, are you a fan of the show? Or are you just like me, just biding time, waiting to see what happens next? Back to my build. These feet are something that I chopped off of some legs that I found on a dollar store action figure. I wanted to pop some holes in it, run some wire through it, mount it on the base. So I took some pieces of bark and some Elmer's glue. The glue didn't hold, so I wiped it off camera. I drilled holes dangerously through the feet. I didn't include footage of it because I didn't want someone going, hey, I saw Dreg do it. It turned out fine, as it almost wasn't fine. After I realized Elmer's glue wasn't going to work, I went to the store and bought some tacky glue. It's better. I like using it much more. This base that I'm using is a piece of cork that I think I stole from a bottle that my wife was using. I didn't tell her what I was using it for. This is one of the only times you will ever see me using a ruler. I had to get semi-accurate lengths on these and the wires that were going to go inside the legs. If not, it would have been lopsided and weird looking. I am using the metrics out of the ruler. For me, I find using millimeters and centimeters so much easier than using inches and feet. Right here, I'm just awkwardly trying to get this thing to stand up in my base. In hindsight, I should have painted the base first, got it lined out, painted the robot, got it lined out, and then attached the two. Instead, I attached it to the base unpainted, and then struggled painting both sides of it. It was kind of a pain. After I shot my pre-paint beauty shots, I realized I wasn't quite done with the build. Went ahead and added some rivets. After the rivets, I just take the X-Acto knife and score some cuts into the foam, trying to make it look weathered and beaten. It'll show up better when I add some paint. For the base, I took out all my browns, lined them up in order from darkest to lightest, started with the darkest, I made a wash, then I covered the whole base with that wash. Then I moved on to the lighter shade, made a wash, and didn't hit every spot. I left some spots intentionally open. Then I moved on to the lighter shade, left some spots open again. Then I repeated this process with every lighter and lighter shade of brown. Then after I used all the browns, I very sparingly added 2 different shades of green. And then after this, I took the lightest shade of brown and I dry brushed to catch all the edges. After this, I took the leftover tan, a little bit of gray, dollop of black, a little bit of water, mixed it together, made a light wash, and covered the whole robot with it. The point of this wash is not to give it continuous color, but to make it splotchy. Make it look like some paint had worn off. Some of it I dry off with the rag. Other parts I let air dry. And I wanted the really dark colors to get into the cracks of the legs, the crevices of the bot. Give it a little bit of shading. I took some gunmetal silver and dry brushed the whole thing. It's basically the same shade of gray, it just has a nice metallic sheen. I mean, I could just paint the whole thing gunmetal silver, I suppose, but doing this one extra step and just dry brushing it on gives it the same general feel, so yeah. A couple of my viewers suggested that I try salt chipping. I don't remember who you are, but thanks for suggesting this. I watched a few videos and the process is pretty straightforward. You get the area you want chipped wet with just water. Then you take some really coarse salt. I took some ice cream rock salt and just smashed it with the hammer. Then you sprinkle that on the water. The salt will adhere to the water and stick. Then you wait a little bit, go with your paint over it. The idea is that the salt will stop some of the paint from sticking to it, and then when the paint is kind of dry, you go over it with a toothbrush and knock it off. This first pass I realized that painting with a brush knocks most of the salt off, so I went in and mixed some salt directly into the paint to see what happened. This is the result. This second pass, I took my coarse salt and sifted it through a sifter, trying to get just the really fine grains through. I really wet the surface and then applied a lot of salt. Pass 3, I decided to use table salt. I really did not like this. All the grains of salt were the same shape, the same size. It looked really fake and artificial, so yeah. Pass 4 I'm not even going to talk about because I decided to try this really awkward angle where my bot's laying on its back and you're looking between its legs. I don't know what I was thinking. In the end, the angle didn't work because the base ends up blocking all the shots, so oh well, you live and you learn. Towards the end of this build, I must have gotten really lazy or stopped caring because most of the rest of the shots are off camera and you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm applying paint to those little coil things on the back of my bot here. One last dry brushing with some actual silver metallic paint. Makes it look like it's scuffed or scratched the surface. I kind of try to dry brush at certain areas that would receive more wear and tear. Then with a really fine paintbrush I went over and had some really fine scratches. This last bit here, when I was drilling the hole in one of these feet, I got carried away and I really goofed it up a little bit. The armature wire sticks out at the side a little bit, and the tube that's holding the armature wire doesn't sit exactly on top. I thought maybe I would just ignore it, but then I thought I'd run with it, and I went and bought some really simple little wires and just stuck them in there. Makes it look like the bot is damaged or something. I like it. It was a happy accident. Oh look, we made it. Here's the beauty shots. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, share. My channel's really starting to grow, and if you want to help support the channel, please just share and subscribe. Hit the like icon. Leave me a arbitrary, pointless comment to help feed the algorithm. That'd be awesome. Thanks. If you like me giving my review of the Obi-Wan show, please let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do more of it in the future. I was also thinking about buying a couple toys, doing an unboxing, giving my review of those. If you'd like to see me do something like that, let me know. I might think about it. Hey Overlord, I've been doing some thinking. Maybe instead of shortening my exile, maybe you talk to the Emperor about possibly conquering this planet. It's ripe for the picking. I have some students who, they stand in the back of class with their phones out, and they do these dances, and they think it's so much fun. I think they're having seizures, but whatever. I mean, pretty much the whole population here is like that. They don't even look around or look up. We could quietly slip in some agents. I'm already here. Just quietly